What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel, man. It is currently Wednesday at the time you're seeing this video, so I hope your hump day is going good. Today is the third episode, the third installment, whatever you would like to call it, of the highs and the lows of each NFL division. Today is the NFC West, which means we're going to be talking about the Rams, the Cardinals, the Seahawks, and the 49ers. It's going to be a fun video today, so if you are new here, please hit that subscribe button. Make sure to hit the like button if you enjoyed today's video. Make sure to hit up all the links down in the comments section below. And let's dive straight into the first team in this division, which is the 49ers. The 49ers have had quite the run on a quarterback carousel, finally finding themselves with the last pick in the draft, Brock Purdy, who has surprised pretty much everyone and every doubter that you can imagine, getting them back to the Super Bowl again, where they lost to the Chiefs once again. This is the second time they've lost to the Chiefs, and as we all know, windows in the NFL and the NBA are short, so they have to get it done fairly soon. So let's talk about the high end and the low end for this 49ers team. The high end for this team is obviously simple. They have to end the season with a Super Bowl ring. Like we mentioned in the intro, they have been to the Super Bowl twice, faced the defending champions twice, and lost both times. They need to see continued growth from Brock Purdy. Obviously, last year we saw a little bit of dip in play there for a while. Then he picked it back up, was able to get the team to the Super Bowl, and win a few tough games down the stretch in the playoff. So they need to see continued growth from him and not let him come back down to earth or where people think he might be as the last pick of the draft. They also need to see continued growth on the defense. They battled with some injuries last year. Obviously in the Super Bowl, just a devastating loss to Dre Greenlaw. So hopefully he'll be back in the fold, maybe middle of the season, depending on how his trajectory of his injury is going. We don't know yet. The low end for this team is obviously pretty fair as well. If they don't win the championship this year, we are looking at a real tough question of what it's going to take to get this team over the hump. The low end as well for them, if we see Brock Purdy not be his self that we have seen since entering the league, and he kind of dips in play a lot worse than what we saw last year during that stretch, they could find themselves right back on the quarterback carousel that they were on just a year ago. So we'll have to wait and see, but the high end for this team is a Super Bowl win, and anything less for them is a loss. Moving on to the polar opposite of this 49ers team, a team that went all in and won 2 years ago. The Los Angeles Rams have had a weird up and down 2 seasons. 2 years ago, we saw a bunch of different quarterbacks come in and out of the lineup with the injury to Matthew Stafford. Then last year, a team we did not think would be that well off goes to the playoffs and battles a team that eventually goes to the NFC Championship in the Detroit Lions. With a retired Aaron Donald, we have questions on the defensive side of the ball. They've been able to draft very well and find hidden gems in Puka Nacua and Kyren Williams. Will they be able to do the same on the defensive side of the ball to replace someone like Aaron Donald? That's going to be the big question. That is a hard shoe to fill. Can they do it? We will see. The high end for this team is getting back to the playoffs. I don't think they have enough just yet to be able to get them over the hump, especially with an aging Matthew Stafford. Cooper Kupp has battled with some serious injuries. We don't know how they're going to look. If fully healthy, we know what this team can be. They are a championship contender. Even without Aaron Donald, I still think they can compete. I don't think they can win, but I think they can compete. The low end for this team is a below average season, a below 500 season. If they have more losses than wins next season, I do believe the end of the run for this Rams iteration is going to come to an end. I think Matthew Stafford, even though he is searching for a contract extension this offseason, I do not think he's going to get that. And I think the iteration for the Rams of their Super Bowl win will be done to get this team back to a contender. Whether it's not they reach into the draft and find a new quarterback, whether they trade for a quarterback, we will have to see. They obviously came up with the term F them picks for a reason. So they might go out and try to keep this core together and just trade out the trigger man. I don't think that's going to work necessarily. We'll have to see, especially depending on what quarterback they get. And if they draft one, depending on how he turns out, you never know in this league. So the high end for this team is making the playoffs, maybe getting a win if everything goes correctly. And the low end is having more losses than they do wins. Now, the bottom 2 teams in this conference are a lot more interesting to think about in terms of how and what they're going to rebuild as. Let's talk about the Seahawks. The Seahawks have an aging quarterback in Geno Smith, who, apart from his 3 years in Seattle as the starter, coming up, counting the third, as his 3 years as the starter, the rest of his career have not been what he has been in Seattle. So we have a lot of questions about him coming in. Obviously, he didn't play his best football last year. He was still a lot better than what he has been in his career. But with a changing of the guard in Seattle for the head coach and the whole coaching regime, we're going to be taking a look and seeing how much, if any length of rope, does Geno Smith have to be the starter until the next year. They obviously missed out on the opportunity to draft a quarterback in this year's draft just because of how many went so early. So this year, I believe they're going to be sticking with Geno Smith. We'll have to see what the future looks like, but I think the high end for this team is making a run towards the playoffs. I don't think if they were able to do it last year, I don't think they're going to be able to do it this year, unfortunately. I love Geno. I'm a West Virginia guy. I was born and raised here. I hope he does good. I hope he makes the playoffs. So if everything goes right, I think they have a chance to make the playoffs, and if they sneak in there, that is awesome for them. But the low end is very similar to the Rams. If they have more losses than wins, I think we're counting this as a huge loss for them, especially with the wide receiver talent the Seahawks have in Jackson Smith-Njigba, Metcalf. Some of the offensive guys they have drafted over the years have played really well. And now on the defensive side, they've also drafted a few guys who have made some very big jumps since being drafted. But like we mentioned, there is a new coach in Seattle. There's a whole new regime in Seattle. So their plan moving forward is probably not to stick with Geno Smith, unfortunately for him. I'm glad he got his career revived and had a little bit more relevancy. He definitely deserved it. But unfortunately for them, I think after this year, this run is over. And the regime's going to want to get their own guy in there and try to get some wins with a new quarterback. So ultimately, the high end for this team is maybe making the playoffs, at least contending for that. And the low end is having more losses than wins, very similar to the Rams. Finally, a team I think a lot of people are going to see as a wild card in this division. A wild card in the sense of they could be really explosive. They're not going to get a lot of wins, but I think they can be really explosive with the addition of Marvin Harrison Jr. Obviously, it's going to take a little bit of time to get him integrated into the offensive scheme. But like we mentioned in the other video, it's been pretty obvious that there have been some rookie wide receivers that have made an impact from day one. I feel like this guy is going to be one of them. He is very offensively gifted. He has all the intangibles, all of the right things to get the job done. And so I think a connection for him and Kyler Murray would be really fun to watch. You add a guy like James Conner, who had a pretty good year last year despite some injuries, definitely playing above what they thought he would be. If you can continue to get the same production out of him, I think that's a big win. They obviously drafted some other key pieces in the draft to try and help them move forward. But I say that a lot of people might think this team is a wild card. We don't know what we're going to get. I think they're going to be explosive. I think they're going to be a fun team. But by no means do I think they're going to be with the Joe Burrow Bengals made the run or the CJ Stroud Texans, where it was a complete turnaround just by drafting their quarterback. I think it's going to take some time in Arizona, but I do like what they're building so far. And I think the high end for them is being an above 500 team. If they get 9 wins this season, I think that would be a huge step in the right direction towards building this offense, building this organization to be coming back to a winning organization. Low end for them is not seeing much connection between Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison Jr., seeing a lack of production in James Conner, seeing some more defensive flaws that they saw in the past. Maybe Kyler Murray getting re-injured, that would be terrible to see. And just an overall lack of good football play from the Arizona Cardinals. This video was a little bit quicker than what we had in the past. It was a lot easier for me to write this division down. I'm not sure why. I feel like it's very top heavy with the 49ers. So I try to keep it short and sweet. I know a lot of you don't like watching longer videos anyway. So this video was trying to be a little bit shorter and sweeter. Hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Like I mentioned in the intro, if you are new here, please hit the subscribe button. If you like today's video, please make sure to leave a like. Comment on where I'm wrong, where I'm right, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Peace out.